Hi, welcome to this episode of History Hunters. Today I bring you to the city of Encino, California, Southern California, specifically on Magnolia Boulevard, at what was once the house of sex symbol Marie McDonald. Now, it's because of what happened here on January 3rd, 1957, that she was known for, and the rest of her career was kind of punctuated by the fact that there was this kidnapping here. So an alleged kidnapping, possibly staged by her for her career, was flagging. This happened in 1957. She was going through a tumultuous divorce from her husband, Harry Carl, and she found out that when she had publicity, and even the worst publicity, that it helped her career. And so even today, police are not sure if there was actually a kidnapping or if she staged the whole thing. It allegedly happened right here, and I'm going to tell you about it on this episode of History Hunters. This is it. This is the Marie McDonald house where she lived in the 1950s. It was a ranch house, and it's changed over the years. I don't know if it got torn down and rebuilt in the same footprint or if it's been remodeled or what, but I want to draw your attention to the mailbox here at 17031. It's not the original mailbox. There's actually a wooden post mailbox out here at the time, and it kind of figures into the discussion of what took place here. But these white pillars here are definitely original. They're the ones that grace the entrance to the Marie McDonald estate. Now, the phone there on that pillar was added a little bit later, and then the sconces at the top were replaced, judging by what I can see from the photos. But Marie McDonald staged a press conference out here with a bunch of LA press people. She tried to tell her story about how two men came onto this property and kidnapped her. Now, it was kind of out in the country at the time, a little bit isolated. So we really don't know if kidnappers came on this property or not. But she turned up about 23 hours later, east of Palm Springs, when she showed up on the road, and a truck driver saw her in the middle of the night. And just a really bizarre incident and a strange place for her to show up. But police definitely were suspicious of her story. To say that McDonald was unstable is not stretching things. On November 27, 1956, McDonald was driving too fast to keep up with friends in Benedict Canyon when she lost control of her car and smashed into a tree. She was treated at a Santa Monica hospital and escorted out by Dr. Rexford Canamer. Her second marriage to Harry Carl was unraveling once again, and she was estranged from him when the year 1957 rolled around. Estranged husband Harry Carl doubted the kidnapping story and asserted that McDonald was not a well woman. Their on-again, off-again relationship was marked by bizarre episodes, such as in January 1955 when she called off their plans for a second marriage because she was, quote, allergic to Carl, unquote. Shortly after midnight on January 3rd, 1957, while in the bedroom of her home that she shared with her three children, her housekeeper, chauffeur, and a large dog, McDonald said she was startled by a noise outside. She claims that two men, one carrying a stick and the other a sawed-off shotgun, entered the sprawling ranch house and told her, quote, "We want your rings, your money, and your body." That was kind of a strange comment, since McDonald was known as the Body because of her great female figure, and she hated the term, felt it was belittling, and took the focus off her acting skills. She told reporters that one of the men even pointed a gun at her baby daughter. She claimed that the men ransacked her house of valuables and spent quite a bit of time cutting mismatched letters out of newspapers to fashion a $30,000 ransom note and then stuck it in her mailbox. McDonald says she was blindfolded and forced into a car and driven for about an hour away and brought to a small home where she was placed in a bedroom which happened to have a telephone. Next, Marie claims that she was drugged and told police that the men called McDonald's mother, married to Bonnie, and estranged husband, telling them of the kidnapping. Though she was told not to, Taboni immediately called police, who headed to McDonald's house, where the gate and front door were open. Detectives found the ransom note in the mailbox, which oddly read, quote, "She won't be hurt to get money." After the men left her alone in the room, she made 3 calls. Instead of calling police, she phoned gossip columnist Harrison Carroll. The second call she made was to her boyfriend, actor Michael Wilding, and the third to her manager, Harold Plant. She said when the abductors caught her using the phone, they roughed her up before blindfolding her again, leading her outside and into their car. McDonald was allegedly driven east to Coachella, where they tossed her down an embankment near the side of the highway and took off. At approximately 11:15 p.m. on January 4th, a little over 24 hours since she'd been allegedly kidnapped, Marie managed to climb up 25 feet to the road and flag down passing truck driver Richard D. Korn, 14.9 miles east of Coachella. Wearing a bathrobe and slippers, McDonald was bruised and bloodied and had 2 cracked teeth and a black eye. She was shuttled to the hospital, where she explained the chaotic details to police. Though she insisted that the story was true, a plethora of strange circumstances had detectives, reporters, and fans wondering if the whole thing was nothing more than a publicity stunt designed to revive her flagging career. A doctor who examined her found 2 cracked teeth, bruises on her face, and abrasions on her neck, legs, and cheek, but that her injuries were inconsistent with the supposed physical assault she claimed that both men did to her. McDonald met with a police sketch artist who produced these sketches of the alleged kidnappers. Los Angeles police officer Edwin Walker was suspicious of the ransom note, wondering why any kidnapper would take the time and trouble to make up a note after the break-in. Police suspicions only intensified when a copy of the novel The Fuzzy Pink Nightgown was found inside of McDonald's home. The 1956 novel depicted the abduction of a pajama-clad movie star. Now, because the police suspected that she wasn't telling them the truth, and you know that reporting a crime that didn't happen is actually a crime in itself, so they said, we'll give you a polygraph test. Well, she refused, and so she, like 5 days later after she was rescued, she staged a press conference there in the driveway with the police and about a dozen reporters. Marie chalked up the discrepancies in her story to her being in shock. Ultimately, authorities were baffled and unable to investigate much further. A little over a year later, McDonald told police that she tracked down and met with her abductors. She claims that she paid him $5,000 to get them to admit that her estranged husband, Harry Carl, masterminded the kidnapping. She accused her ex-husband, Harry Carl, of staging the abduction, and they gave him a polygraph test, and he passed, so he wouldn't have anything to do with it. McDonald later admitted that she fabricated Carl's alleged involvement in the kidnapping, or alleged kidnapping. A grand jury investigated but couldn't find any conclusive evidence to charge anyone. The divorce between Harry Carl and McDonald was finalized shortly after the incident, and most who followed the case were convinced that the whole thing was a poorly executed hoax. McDonald continued making films, one of the most well-known being the 1958 Jerry Lewis comedy The Geisha Boy.
What are you hitting? I'm helping. Let me help. Hi, Miss Livingston. Here, let me help you. Oh, I'm awfully sorry.
McDonald's career never really took off. Her last film came in 1963 when she appeared with Jane Mansfield in Promises, Promises.
Well, it'll go with the extra 20 pounds I'm going to put on.
Now that she's going to become a mother, she wants to look the part.
The owner got a little freaky on me, and I told him that it's legal to photograph a property from the street, and I don't know, he may be calling the cops. I just think it's kind of weird. I just explained to him I was trying to do some Hollywood history here. The chaotic life of Marie McDonald began as Cora Marie Frye in Burgin, Kentucky in 1923. She was born to a former Ziegfeld Follies showgirl and spent her childhood in Kentucky before moving to New York City as a teenager. At the age of 15, she began competing in beauty pageants and was named the Queen of Coney Island, Miss Yonkers, and Miss Lowe's Paradise. She worked on Broadway and dropped out of high school to begin modeling. In 1939, she was named Miss New York State and later debuted in George White's Scandals. By age 17, she landed a showgirl role in the Broadway production of Earl Carroll's Vanities. Marie then moved to Hollywood in search of stardom. Bandleader Tommy Dorsey hired her to sing with his big band.
It was love at sight. He took me by storm.
He took McDonald under his wing and helped her pick a new stage name. Dorsey suggested that she drop the name of Marie Frye and use her mother's maiden name, thus she became Marie McDonald. The actress finally won the film contract that she dreamed of, but she didn't experience overnight success. McDonald earned $75 per week at Universal and had minor roles in a handful of films. It was there that somebody decided to nickname her the Body because she had a stunning figure, but the moniker wasn't quite enough to put her on the map. She eventually despised the name because the focus was on her body, which minimized her singing and acting talents. Marie McDonald was among Hollywood's biggest entertainers who joined the 3-week Hollywood Victory Caravan railroad journey across the country to raise money through the sale of war bonds. At their meeting at the White House in March of 1942, Marie McDonald was photographed standing just 3 persons away from First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. It wasn't long before the blonde bombshell found herself in movies with leading men like Alan Ladd, Fred MacMurray, Gene Kelly, and Cesar Romero. Because of a lack of on-screen chemistry between Gene Kelly and McDonald, MGM produced one of its biggest flops of 1947 with the movie Living in a Big Way.
But it's no good.
Tell me, why did you do all this? You knew I'd probably never come back, never even see it.
I had to.
Her career wasn't the only thing failing. McDonald's personal life was a mess. In 1954, she was charged with driving under the influence of drugs and hit and run that ended when she kicked an officer and bit another. She was married 6 times, twice to shoe store magnate Harry Carl, interrupted by 2 divorces. When rumors of a romance between her and actor Bruce Cabot landed her name in papers, Marie had to face the facts. She couldn't get the movie reviewers to notice her performances, but she could certainly get the gossip columnists to write about her. In November 1957, almost a full year after the alleged kidnapping, on her flight from New York to Los Angeles, her plane had to be diverted to Denver because she was stricken by a kidney attack. In March 1963, McDonald suffered a nervous breakdown in Australia. She was committed to a psychiatric clinic but broke free a few days later. 4 months later, McDonald was arrested for forging prescriptions. She even had a failed fling with mobster Bugsy Siegel, who finally had enough of her drama. On October 21, 1965, husband number 6, Donald Taylor, found Marie slumped over her dressing table at their home at 5337 Jed Smith Road in Hidden Hills. The 42-year-old actress died from a drug overdose, which authorities believe was accidental. So Marie McDonald and George Burns and Nat King Cole are all buried in the same corridor in this building right here. And there she is, Marie McDonald. What a sad waste of a life. Only 50 people attended her funeral, where 3 of Marie's divorce attorneys served as pallbearers. 9 weeks later, Taylor was found dead after swallowing a bottle of sleeping pills. His body was near the spot where Marie had died. So I don't know. Looking at the facts of the case this many years later, I can't honestly say that I believe Marie McDonald was actually kidnapped. I think she actually faked it. Especially when you look at the police department, these trained professionals who were actively engaged in interviewing her and looking at the evidence, they didn't think it happened either. It's not the only time that a female would have faked her own kidnapping. If you remember the Sherry Papini case in 2016, Northern California mother, wife, she decided to take off and go to Southern California, be with her former boyfriend. And down there, she actually endured a branding from a hot iron on her back just to convince police later that she was kidnapped and tortured. She endured a lot of physical abuse. So Marie McDonald's injuries weren't that severe, not like Sherry Papini's. So don't discount that. Whether she hit herself or somebody else did it, I don't know. She had a serious drug and alcohol problem. She had a problem with men. I think she was married 6 times in her life. On again, off again with Harry Carl, father of her daughter. And it's just a mess of a life. It's really sad because she was a beautiful lady. She had her talents and just things weren't clicking in her life. So Now think about this too. If it actually did happen and nobody believed her, how would that make you feel as a person? You know, nobody believes you. And so that might send somebody over the edge. I don't think that was the case, honestly. I think she actually faked her kidnapping. I mean, to think that some kidnappers entered your house at gunpoint and took the time to go through magazines or newspapers and cut out letters to fashion a ransom note and stick it in the mailbox. Number one, red flag. What do you think? Do you think that the kidnapping actually took place? Or what's your thoughts on Marie McDonald? Have you ever had a relationship with anybody like Marie McDonald? And I'm probably opening a can of worms on this one. Guys, be careful. So on the way out, if you haven't subscribed, I would love to have you as a subscriber and watch my videos. Thanks so much for watching this episode of History Hunters.